Good evening. My name is Dr. Bilal Badruddin. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I serve as your Director of Alumni Relations here at Howard University. Welcome to tonight's conversation with our presidential candidates for the Howard University Alumni Association. It is a pleasure to have all of you join us tonight for this important event. As we gather here, it's essential that you recognize that every graduate of Howard University is a valued member of our Alumni Association. I want to remind you that the Alumni Association no longer requires dues for membership. So we encourage each and every one of you, regardless of when you graduated and where you are in the world, to participate in the Alumni Association and exercise your right to vote in this year's elections. Tonight's conversation is moderated by Nadia Pinto-Bayless and Trustee Chris Washington, both former presidents of HUAA, and it promises to be an enlightening and engaging conversation. We have the unique opportunity to hear from two candidates vying for the role of president, and I'm confident that their insights and vision for the Alumni Association will inspire us. Your participation and engagement are crucial as we chart into the future of the Howard University Alumni Association. So thank you for being here tonight. And with that, I turn it over to Trustee Washington to talk a little bit more about HUAA.
Thank you, Bilal, and good evening, everybody. Good evening, Bison community. Thanks for joining us for this year's trust election to meet our candidates for the HUAA president. We're gonna have a great program along with my former president, Nadia Bayless, is with us as well. So we're gonna just jump right in. Denise, if you could bring up the slide, just to reiterate the mission of Howard University Alumni Association. Thank you. So the vision of HUAA is to enhance the alumni experience by providing a concierge service to our members. When alumni have questions, we want them to think of HUAA for their answers. Providing assistance and solutions to inquiries allows HUAA to further engage them in meaningful conversation about their participation or lack thereof, which HUAA. Working together, we can fulfill alma mater's mission and motto of providing truth and service to the alumni community. So, and I want to make sure, again, I'm going to reiterate what Dr. Bilal had mentioned, that everybody's a member of HUAA, but it's up to each individual to sort of come and bring what you want to the table and to figure out your own path and figure out a way to get involved. For many of us, for me personally, I got started just simply by doing college fairs, which is rewarding and tiresome. But when you start seeing some of those young kids that you meet as high schoolers, and then they come to Howard and you start meeting with them as students, and then eventually graduates, that's well worth the effort. And then figure out your own path about how best we can work with HUAA and the university to make our university even better than it already is, as we try to achieve Howard to the max. So that's our basics for HUAA, and our mission statement, again, is once the purpose of the Howard University Alumni Association shall be to promote the university as an institution of academic excellence and to create and maintain an environment that encourages alumni participation through volunteerism and financial support. So please write checks to the university. No amount is too small, and we could always use more support. With that, I'll turn it over to my fellow former president, Nadia Bayless.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for everyone joining the call. I will say, go ahead right now, take your phone out, text a couple of your fellow HUAA alumni, and let them know that we're on live right now. This is a very important debate tonight, or conversation tonight, for us to get personal with our candidates that will be leading us for the next 2 years with and through HUAA. I will now take a few moments to talk to you guys about how you will have the opportunity to vote. So you will get an e-ballot from HUAA election@eballot.com. Go ahead and add that email address to your inbox so that the email will not go to your spam. If it does go to your spam, just check for it. First, that's what you'll receive the email. Then you can go through the link to review the candidate statements. It should include their bio as well as their platform. Indicate your choice by checking the person that you want to vote for, or you can write in a candidate if applicable. If you have, depending on where you live, you will be able to vote for your region chair for that candidate in your region only, so not in multiple areas. So where your address is linked through the Department of Alumni Relations database, that is where you'll be able to vote for that region chair. If you are unsure or have any questions about your ballot come the April dates, you can email help@eballot.com or howardalumni@howard.edu. Or you can call these numbers listed if you're on the phone and you want to jot them down. It's 1-866-984-3125 or 202-806, which we all know. And then the last 4 digits are 5857. Here are some important dates that you want to remember. April 25th, the candidate platforms will be sent to you via email. And so at that point, if you don't receive that email or you don't see it, you probably do not have your proper email address on file, and you will want to check in with DAR or those email addresses or that phone number that I just shared with you prior to. On April 30th, that's when the election period will open, so you can vote starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on May 21st, the votes will close at 11:59 p.m. So don't be a part of that crew on May 21 at 5 p.m. trying to email the Alumni Relations Office getting your ballot. So please check it early. And you can do that even as early as April 25th to see whether or not you received that candidate platform email, or again on April 30th to check to see if you received your ballot by that date. All right, Chris, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, Nadia. So now we'll take a couple of minutes to hear from our 2 candidates for president for the Howard University Alumni Association. And I will start first with our current sitting president, Dr. Candace Harris. Candace, you've got 2 minutes. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your platform, and go.
Thank you, Chris and Nadia, for moderating. I also want to thank the DAR officers on here, Dr. Barudin, Kayla DeBebe, and Denise. We can't see her, but I also want to say thank you to a fellow candidate, Theo Spencer. Again, my name is Dr. Candace Harris. I am currently the 8th woman to serve as the president of the Howard University Alumni Association. I currently serve as an associate dean in the Mike Kirk College of Art, Media, and Communication at Cal State University, Northridge, where I deal in all things that have to do with student success. I have a 17-year background in higher education. I have worked at I've served at 6, I don't know why I said 3, but I've served at 6 historically Black colleges and universities, including Clark Atlanta University, Shaw University, Johnson C. Smith, Bowie State, and I also taught at Howard University. For me, this is really important because I am a triple graduate. I have my bachelor's in print journalism, my master's in human communication studies, and my PhD in mass comm media studies, where I am also a media and communication scholar. So in that, I'm actually excited. I have a new article coming out, which is focused on Black women's friendship on representation on television. So y'all check that out when you get a chance. I have served in various capacities for Howard University at the local, regional, and national level. I've received the Crystal Bison Award in 2018 from the Department of Alumni Relations. I have been named and awarded the Region Chair of the Year from Howard University in 2018 and 2020. Currently, as I'm serving for the Howard University Alumni Association, our focus and our theme under this administration is Bison Engage. And Engage stands for Engage, Network, Galvanize, Access, Gathering, and then Excel. So in that, what we want to focus on is making sure that we are engaging multi-generational alumni at a high level. And I think we've been able to do this year as well. And over the last almost 2 years, I've been able to build and focus on partnerships with various capacities and stakeholders at the university, not only the alumni, but the students, the faculty, and the administration. And my light went off in my office.
Okay, thank you. That's 2 minutes.
That's 2 minutes? Okay,
that's
thank
2
you.
minutes. That's 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Next, our next candidate, Mr. Theo. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay.
Good. Theo
uh,
Spencer, the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Theo Spencer. I'm originally from Camden, New Jersey. Um, Graduate of Howard University in 1999 with a bachelor's degree in chemistry. Have an MBA from Tulane University in 2006. I moved back to the Philadelphia area um, from New Orleans. I happen to be a part of the Hurricane Katrina class at Tulane. I moved back to the Philly area in maybe 2006 or so. And I had been engaged with the Alumni Club over the years. And I want to say maybe a couple years ago, as the pandemic hit and the club had sort of gotten a little bit inactive because, you know, the university was sort of in a freeze. Um, I heard the call to come and consider being the president to kind of restart the club. And that's pretty much how I got engaged in the Alumni Association again. It was by, you know, basically trying to run the club and start the club, you know, from the ground up again. We started out with maybe 5 or 6 folks, and we ended up getting an alumni list that probably was well over 100 alums in the Philadelphia area as I ended my presidency. I was able to hand it off to a very capable young woman, Joanne Ford, who has been able to expand on what we did and what we started in the Philadelphia club, and the club seems to be running pretty well now. I think you know, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of a platform, uh, it's really Bison Alumni Redefined. And the reason why I chose that is because we are entering a new time at the university where we have to start to at least put on the table what it means to be an alumnus of the university. I think I just saw an email about how the university has been more popular than ever in terms of student applications. And that comes with some special expectations on alums now. And I think we need to start to put some things on the table to really start to redefine what that relationship looks like, because what an alumnus was and what it needed to be 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I was at Howard, it's different now. There's different expectations. And, you know, everybody is looking for something. And as an alum and as an alumni association, we have to start to redefine what that is for the alums. And I think that's one of the only ways that we're going to really be able to improve the engagement of alums and to get more alums
Okay.
involved.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Theo. Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
Theo.
and Candace. Nadia.
Thank you. So I'll go to you, Theo, with this first question. How are you going to make your voice heard during your 2-year term? And what specific things might be a part of your legacy if elected as president of HUAA?
I think in terms of being heard, I think what you have to do is you have to present a clear vision of what you want to do, have plans in place, and basically show people the roadmap of how you're going to get there. There are a lot of big things that I'm sure we could put on the table, but I think there's also a lot of smaller things that we could do that could show, hey, this is the direction that we're moving in. And as you start to build that momentum, I think it gives you a bigger platform to stand on. And I think people trust you a little bit more the more things that you start to get under your belt. One of the things that I would like to try to do is I would try to sort of, I don't want to say update's the wrong word. I would say one of the things that I want to do is I want to make some improvements on our digital presence. I think I didn't mention this in my opening, but I'm a software engineer and user experience developer by profession. And there's a lot of things that we could be doing through our website to engage alums. And so there's a lot of things that just by updating certain things on the website, updating the user experience on the website, I think it has the potential for a small amount of effort to really, really engage people. So, so I have a plan around, some of those sorts of things and what I would try to do. And you just have to lay your vision out and allow people to engage you on it. And then you just have to take small steps forward.
Thank you. Candace?
Repeat the question, please, Nadia.
Yes. How are you going to make your voice heard during your 2-year term as HUAA president, if elected or reelected? And what will your legacy be?
Okay. Well, I would say, being that I am currently serving in the incumbent role, I think I've done that. I think I've presented a voice, not only my voice, but the voice of, our 80 or 90, depending on the day, thousand alums, but in particular those voices of the HUA alumni leaders. One of the things that I focused on, particularly as it relates to legacy, I was able, because I was involved, to work with the Department of Alumni Relations as well as other HUAA leaders in removing the dues model. And our thought behind that was that we had our leaders spending too much time, haggling for membership dollars when really we could work with the university and get some resources to better engage alums across the country, not only those that have clubs, but also those who are just in remote areas, but obviously Bison are everywhere. So we wanted to make sure we could focus on that. And I think over the last 2 years, I've been able to do that, where we have been able to introduce inaugural programs, including Bison Amplified, which is our alumni speaking series on campus to be more integrated with the students on campus. We've also put together HUSA times HUAA micro scholarships for students on campus, so that if they needed small dollars, anything under $500, we could help them with that, and that could go towards anything that they needed on campus. It didn't have to be tuition based. We put together for the first time, we did the inaugural HU parent kickback, where we put together an opportunity for alumni leaders to interact with first time or maybe second time Bison parents while they were there. And then we also made sure that we were able to increase the amount of dollars that we give to students. So right now we are tracking about $350,000 to give to students this year, which will probably impact about 600 students to be able to cross the stage. So I think so far my legacy has been being sure that we're engaging alums, but we're also helping students get across the finish line so they can start their careers.
Thank you. I'm gonna jump back into right back to you, Candace, for this next question. And you can talk about this, and we all know, coming to the role of president, you obviously bring a lot of your own experiences with you. What specifically do you think, maybe 1 or 2 things do you think in your past experiences will help you in the role as president of HUAA?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm an educator. I'm a higher education administrator, which means a lot of the things that are happening at Howard University is happening along the broader higher education landscape. So I do understand a lot of the things that are happening with students. We understand about how we deal with students' mental health. We understand about food insecurity. I understand about, just the academics of it all, but also how the inner workings work when you're talking about a 10,000 foot view of how to run a university. I interact with, my president here at Cal State University Northridge. I'm a dean, which means, again, I have to understand policies and procedures. There's a understanding in terms of finances, the fiduciary responsibility that we have for a university. Just I touch upon, particularly in my role, I touch upon every aspect of the college experience. And so I think I bring that to this particular role because I understand it. And I've used that, being that 2 years ago when I first started, the first thing that I did was I made sure I met with every administrator on the Howard University's campus to understand how HUAA could best serve them in their capacity and how we can best serve students. And I think that's helped in terms of how this particular administration has been able to be visible in a different way, because we were able to actually work with those particular offices and administrators on campus.
All right, thank you. Theo, question to you. What are some of your past experiences that you feel will help you in the role of president for HUAA?
Well, I bring a lot of experience. I not only attended the university, I worked at the university for about 4 years. So I definitely got a good understanding of how the university functions and how it thinks. I also was a club president. So I dealt with alumni a lot. I did a lot of the recruiting that our club did. So I constantly was engaging with students and alums. So I'm pretty sure I have a pretty good idea of what alums are looking for, the types of things that they're interested in. As a club president, you're sort of like on the ground floor, and you get an idea of the things that get the alums excited and the things that they're not necessarily interested in. So when you ascend to a role like president, what you can do is you can sort of accentuate the things that you know are going to get people excited, and the things that, maybe not so much, you can figure out ways to still maybe do those, but engage the alumni in a way that they'll be just excited about those things as some of the things that I know alums are excited about.
Thank you.
Thank you. I actually want to take the next question and kind of flip what Chris just asked and say, what can you guys discuss with us or share a past leadership challenge that you faced and how that has prepared you for the role that you're going to serve as president of HUAA? And I'll start with you, Theo.
Well, when I came to the club and when I became president of the club, one of the things that you deal with is there's a lot of rules and policies and things that you have to coalesce people around and get them to try to work with. One of the things that we tried to do, or one of the things that we dealt with, was the banking situation with individual clubs. The university wants to move in one direction, and the club had traditionally went in another direction. And so one of the things that you have to do is you have to hear both sides, be able to mediate, and really try to work in what you think is going to be the best interest of the university and the club. And you just, as a club president, even though it was on a slightly smaller level, you're just doing that over and over and over again. It's not really about me and what I want. It's really about finding that space where the alumni club can function, but we also follow the things that the university has, laid out as the best sort of route for the clubs to move in.
Candice?
Of course, there are no issues that we have while we're working the HUAA. But no, I think there is, to Theo's point, there is that understanding of compliance and what that means in terms of trying to galvanize, at some point, I would say 63 some odd clubs to follow policies and procedures at the university. I would say in my capacity as VP of administration, and really now as president, a lot of times it is making sure that people understand and get the information they need so they can run their clubs at a high level. And one of the issues that we do have is that we have clubs that are long serving and that are, well-oiled machines. And then we have starter clubs that really have to learn the ropes. And so it really is about trying to make sure that we're training. And so sometimes that can be a little difficult because you want to make sure people are following policies and procedures, because the Alumni Association is a branch arm to some extent of the university. So we want to make sure at all times, because our mission is to promote the institution as as excellent. We want to make sure that we're doing things and we're serving and we're helping our alumni leaders be able to serve them as the mission, but also making sure that we aren't, going rogue, going off script, or potentially doing something that could harm not only the university but students or other alums. And so I think that's been probably the biggest issue, but I think we've done really well because we try to make sure that they're trained. We follow up, we communicate with our region chairs. We have a system. We try to every 2 years make sure that people know what it is that they need to do, what rules to follow, what the policies are. Just making sure that they can be the best leadership servant for the university. But I welcome the challenge. And so, I love what I do. And so I think, albeit it may be difficult sometimes and we have to roll up our sleeves, I always welcome that particular challenge.
Thank you. And for anybody that's just joining us, welcome to the Howard University Alumni Insight Call. We're on right now with our two people running for our candidates for HUAA president. I am Trustee Chris Washington. I am joined by our fellow former president, Nadia Bayless. She's with us as well. And thank you to everybody from the Department of Alumni Relations for making this happen. And we just want to remind everybody that you will get notifications for the elections that will be coming up. What was the date again, Nadia?
The 25th of April is when they'll start receiving the ballots, and then the voting starts April 30th and it ends May 21st. And then also, Chris, we can remind them to drop any questions that you may have for the candidates in the Q&A, and we will have them filtered through and ask at the end of our formalized questions that we have.
That's right. So thank you for that. So let's continue moving on. So I just want to get a quick glimpse and, and because so much of this is about personality and style and, how do you blend your style with other people in the university. So just give us, and we'll start with you, Candace, and then go to Theo. Just tell us about some of your management style. Tell us about that. What's that personality like when you're in the nitty gritty of that conference room and we're trying to get things done, and we all know that's when the personality starts to come out. So tell us a little bit about that management style.
Well, I think I employ the same management style where I work now. I believe in collaborative leadership. I think that, first and foremost, you need to make sure that your team is always informed in terms of what's going on, have the best amount of information so that we can understand different processes. So for example, for HUAA, a lot of times we're bringing in administrators, we're bringing in different stakeholders from the university so that our leaders can have a better understanding of what's actually happening on campus, but then also putting our heads together and thinking about what's the best way that we can, serve students, serve the faculty, serve the staff. How can we be the best leadership servants? So I think that's my biggest leadership styles, that I want to make sure that I'm collaborative in nature, but I also think I'm able to show grace. I think it's really important that we're going to sometimes make mistakes or do things, and we have to be able to make sure that we have the, show grace, have the proper tone and tenor when you are interacting with a vast group of people. But I also think it's just making sure that even if you make a mistake, to be able to have some sense of accountability and be able to say when you didn't necessarily get it right, but how can we now, fix this? How can we now, come together? So I think that's been my biggest focus, but also building, relationships. I think it is important to understand and know about the people that you work with, and that even happens with HUAA, understanding, people are getting married, people have children going into college, people are getting different jobs, what is going on, and try to understand also the other leaders that we're working with, but then also making sure that we have a better working relationship with the university. And so that's been a big thing. I believe I'm a conduit, and I try to move in that way by bridging the gaps between, the various stakeholders. So I think that's my, great leadership style in terms of the question you asked.
Theo, How about you? You in that boardroom? What's that like? How are we going to manage to get all these personalities together?
I'm kind of a mixed bag of things. I think collaboration is important. Sometimes you have to collaborate. Sometimes, you know, you have to lay down what you want and you have to move from there. I think being a leader is about knowing the balance and when it's time for collaboration and when it's time to basically set the direction and everybody has to coalesce around that. I'm also a very laid back person. I like to listen to all sides. I like to research things. Um, so I like to be well informed about, whatever decision that we're going to make. And I like to be able to understand both sides of, pretty much any situation. So, that I try to lead with some humility, some intelligence. Like I said, I don't need to be the person that's out front. I think it's very important as a leader to sort of set the parameters around what you'll accept and what you won't accept, or what you need or what you don't need. And you have to allow people to do their job. You have to empower people to basically fulfill whatever you're asking them to do. And you find good people and you get out of the way. So, I mean, those are just sort of some of the things that I think about in terms of leadership. I don't believe in micromanaging people. I also believe that if you give people the proper requirements, often they'll surprise you with something better than what you initially expected or what you would have anticipated. So like I said, I like to be collaborative, give people the room to make some decisions and be autonomous when necessary. But also, I recognize that you sometimes have to say, hey, this is what it is. And everybody has to coalesce around that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to mix it up and I'll start with you first on this question, Candace. Okay, so $1 million question.
Didn't I go first last time?
You did,
Go
but I've
ahead.
been asking Thea every time, so now
I'm
we're mixing
teasing
it
you.
up.
Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I'll say the $1 million question for HUAA leadership, for DAR, for anyone who wants to advocate for alumni at Howard is how to get more alumni engaged. And what does that engagement look like? We have this call, we have 2 amazing candidates on, and we're roughly sitting around 200 alumni out of the tens and tens of thousands of living alumni that we have. So what will you do to increase these numbers for virtual events that we may do, alumni insight calls that we may have, local clubs? And then on top of that, how do you measure success? Give us specific ways that you would measure the success of that increased alumni engagement or tracking of how you get there.
Well, I think first and foremost, for all of us who have probably worked in HUAA, for lack of a better descriptor, we know that Rome wasn't built in a day. I think we need to understand alumni psychology. We have to meet alums where they are. There are different people who, depending on what their experience was at Howard University, they may be disengaged. They may be, upset, hurt by their experience. There may be some other things that have occurred. So we need to first just understand where people are with it. I think it's also making sure that they have the information. We've really tried to work better with the university to be ambassadors, if you will, to ensure we're getting information to alums. For example, when there's a crisis on campus, we recently had the crisis regarding the students in front of the towers, making sure we're getting alums the information so that they know, so they're not, just pulling from, particular past traumas or just trying to understand what's going on. But it's a cultural shift. It's a paradigm shift, if you will. And I think, this particular administration, I think we've done a tremendous job of really getting more alumni engaged on campus, in their communities, multi-generational leaders. We had kind of gotten a little, funk, if you will, where we were just kind of regurgitating the same people. And I think you're seeing new faces, you're seeing, fresh newly minted alum being more engaged in their community, but we're also making sure that we're reaching out. And so it's not an easy feat, but you know, we have to understand it, and we have to meet alums where they are. We understand athletics. If you guys have noticed, under my administration, we understand that we can meet people with sports. So we've done a really good job of making sure that alums know about different athletic events that are going, not just the male sports, but the female sports as well, that are going on. We are making sure that we are at recruitment fairs. We're sharing out that information. We're doing more social events. I mean, hey, ain't no party like an HU party. We know people want to be in those type of events. For example, the Alumni Homecoming Lounge that we've put on the main campus during homecoming, that has been a tremendous success because we're trying to reach them in every capacity. And so what I would like to do, you know, if elected again, is put out a mass alumni survey and make sure that we're having more alumni town halls such as this one, so that we can get more alumni voices and understand exactly what alums are looking for when they want to be engaged.
Thank you. Chris?
Hey, all right. So I just want to talk about wait, did Theo answer?
No.
Yeah, sorry. So go ahead, Theo.
See, I'm used to doing it the other way around.
I'm keeping track. Don't worry, we got it. It's all good. We got it covered. Go ahead, Theo.
Yeah, well, as a club president, one of the first things that I would do is I would get, well, one of the things that I just thought of was just walking around Philadelphia. I ran into alums all the time, didn't have anything to give them. One of the things that I would do is come up with some sort of flyer or something like that for every club that lists when they meet and all that sort of thing, ship them directly to the clubs and tell club presidents, hey, as you run into people, give these out, and then track who comes into your meetings as a result. And I think we need to update the way we interface with the clubs in regards to how they track information, because the clubs are generally the closest to our alums. They're going to know what's going on. And so I think that you really have to go and really, really deal with the club presidents to work with the clubs in terms of, hey, how can we help you engage more alumni? What is going on the ground in Philadelphia or in Chicago or in these places where alumni are? We know there's a lot of alumni. As you're talking to people, what are they saying? I think that's probably the easiest and quickest way where you can get a lot of anecdotal information that you can then come back and really start to build bigger campaigns around and things that you can really think around. But in terms of how you engage alumni and get alumni back in, I think it's really at the local club level, dealing with the local clubs, empowering them, giving them some of the resources that they need. One of the things that I was looking at was the Alumni Association probably needs a content management system. And what that content management system does is it would allow every club to basically activate a website on the university's platform that would basically pull in whatever information of the individual clubs that are interacting with it. So, and that's one way that you would manage information. You could get information out, you could get more information in. And there's a number of, because I do this for a living, there are a number of companies that provide this, and it would be a win-win. It would allow the clubs to be able to be digitally out there with very little work. Most of the time you just dump your information into basically like a database, and it automatically just populates everything. But because it's hosted by the university is getting data on exactly when people are engaging with the university. So, if you put out an email that says,
hold on,
what's going on, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Yeah, don't worry. And I'm only stopping you just for a hot second. Once again, we want to remind everybody that you're listening to the Howard University Alumni Insights alumni call with our candidates for HUAA president, Theo Spencer and Dr. Candace Harris. I am Trustee Chris Washington, along with fellow former President Nadia Bayless, co-moderating with us. And again, we want to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank this team at the Department of Alumni Relations for putting this all together. And we again want to remind everybody that elections are coming up, and so you should be seeing something in your email. Nadia, what is that date again?
April 25th.
April 25th, okay?
And voting will start the 30th of
And
April.
voting will start on the 30th. So we want to make sure everybody gets that. So if you don't see anything on your email, make sure you check your spam folders as well. Please reach out to the Department of Alumni Relations so we can make sure that you get your chance and your opportunity to vote in this year's election. So I'm gonna follow up, and I'm gonna give you a chance to expound a little bit. And I'm gonna start with you, Theo, then we'll go to Candace, right? So there we go. There's the balance right there. So I want you to just expound a little bit about, and I think you started going there, and which is why I paused you just for a hot second, about engaging some of those clubs that maybe have lost memberships, or there's been some transition, and so they're not as active as they were. What are some of your thoughts in doing that and helping bringing back some of those clubs and some of those key markets where we have alum?
Well, I mean, I was in a key market where the club had gone inactive for a bit, even though it was because of the pandemic, and I was re-engaged. That was something that happened through our regional chair. So I think one of the things that hopefully you've got a regional chair that is engaged and understands what's going on, and you can start to connect with some of these folks and start to try to understand, hey, well, what's going on? What happened? Why did it fall apart? I think that's the first thing that you got to do. You got to work from a place of just having information, understanding of what's going on. I think on the flip side of that, though, I think we also have to go back to the university and start to look at the data about where alumni are. So I think, yes, we might have had a club in, Poughkeepsie, but, if you go back and you look at the data, how many alums live in Poughkeepsie now? Maybe that's not the place where we need to put our resources. Maybe there's a pocket of alums that are blowing up in Birmingham, Alabama, and maybe that's the place that we need to go. So I think that, there's certain markets and certain places where if there's no club there, you definitely have to look into it and understand what's going on and see who you can re-engage and start to help them and provide them the resources that they can go and basically reclaim alum. By the same token, I think we have to also look to the university and say, where should we probably have clubs where we may not have had a club before? Where are people living? I can tell you right now, I live in South Jersey, and I always had to engage through the Philadelphia club. But there are a decent number of alum that live south of Trenton, between Philadelphia and Atlantic City, and we don't have a club. And we probably have the number of alum in the area where we could get one, but we have to go back, look at the data, see who's here, how many folks are there, and just kind of go from there. So I think it's something that you hit from both directions. I think.
Thank you. Dr. Candace.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is how, and you've been a part of this, how can we re-engage with some of those local HUAA constituent units and get them back up and running in some of those key markets where we have alumni?
Well, I think first and foremost is just understanding, how HUAA works, and that we do have, as Theo mentioned, we have region chairs who work with club presidents in their area as it relates to looking at their various regions and where alumni are. HUAA actually started mapping alums under Charlie Lewis, his last year and the beginning of my first year, we started presenting information to HUAA leaders about where alumni are. Obviously, we know the DMV area has the largest amount of Howard University graduates, and then we broke it down to Alaska. So we do have a actual mapping system where we can tell you exactly how many alums, approximately how many alums we have in various areas. And so obviously we know some regions are better served than others. For example, Region 2, which actually serves Philadelphia, is our largest in terms of alums, the amount of alums that we have. So HUA actually does have that information. What we have encouraged region chairs and then the CUPs to do is to look at and to better define what alums they're serving. In the past, clubs have tried to cover everybody. And so what happens when you have, somebody in, Charlotte trying to help somebody in Winston-Salem, we saw that was a difficult one. So we end up creating a Winston-Salem club. So we've been asking club presidents to really talk about the areas that they serve and understanding that, but also making sure that we have the resources to serve these particular individuals. To what Theo was talking about, some of the issue is that sometimes clubs die when a person leaves. When you make a club around a person and that person moves away or they become disinterested. So we have to make sure, one, that we understand that this is a market that we can actually we can serve. But we also decided, while we are creating new clubs or reactivating clubs in various areas, we also need to make decisions on whether or not clubs need to be served there. And if the regions need to create activities that might serve somebody in West Virginia or serve someone in a small town in Maine. We may not need to start a club there, but we may want to make sure we're engaging those alums who live there. We've also been great in the last 2 to 3 years is expounding internationally. So we have a club in Ghana. We have started to work back with the club in London. We are working with alums in Dubai. We've been trying to get Trinidad and Tobago back up in Region 3. So we've been looking at those particular areas where we know we have alums and making sure that they have the information, but also making sure that HUAA actually has the resources and the alums have the tools so that they continue to thrive in that area. And so just making sure that we're paying attention to that. And I am happy to say under the last 2 years that I've served as president, we have expanded tremendously with new clubs and shout out to the region chairs who helped with getting those particular clubs off the ground. But we have clubs in upstate South Carolina. We reinstated the College of Engineering and Architecture. We've made sure that we now have a Howard University Alumni Club of Fine Arts. So we've been trying to make sure we are expanding, but we're doing it where it makes sense in how we expand.
Thank you. Nadia.
All right, thank you. I am going to pull a question coming from.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are we going to get to the questions that are in the chat?
Yeah, we're going to do a mix of both. So some of them will be included in other questions that we have. But we have a question coming in saying, I would like a president who is a change agent and to help guide administration to be more accountable to alumni. How will you do this if elected president of HUA? We're going to start. Yes, Theo.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty good question. And I'm actually kind of concerned about the sort of relationship between the alums and the university. Just recently, I was looking at the President's Engagement Tour, and he lists all these, constituent groups that he wanted to engage and find out, their feelings about the university. And one of the groups that wasn't listed there was alums. But then there was an email that came out today where it listed the alums as part of this engagement tour. But that's something that we're going to have some frank conversations about in terms of, because I feel it as an alum that there is a fracturing and a fissure there that I think started around the whole board of trustee alumni representation and student representation piece. And I feel like right now, as a university, we got to pull all sides together and we have to recognize what we have here. We have a situation where the university is more popular than it's ever been before. We're getting more student applications. We're getting more views in terms of interest from television and all these other places. We all have to sit down and be willing to put some things aside to allow the university to move forward. And I think that as president of the Alumni Association, you know, it comes down to having some frank conversations about where this relationship is. That's why one of the reasons why I was talking about, you know, Bison Alumni Redefined, because we are at a crossroads where we've got a number of things going and a number of balls in the air. And we have to say, hey, look, this is a moment where we can either propel Howard to another level, or we can just cave under all these groups sort of starting to fissure the university. And I think the president of the Alumni Association is key in trying to tie some of these groups together and trying to make sure that the voice of the alumni don't get lost in, you know, hey, well, the alumni are just difficult. We don't want to deal with them. So we'll just sort of cast them to the side. I think that's part of the role as a president. You have to basically constantly, you know, sort of promote the alumni to the university to a certain degree to make sure that we're always sort of together. Because if this thing breaks and it doesn't, if this thing breaks and if we don't find a way to really work together and stay together, we're going to lose a very, very great moment in the history of the university.
Thank you. Candace?
I think I'll answer this a little bit differently. As it relates to the administration being accountable to alumni, I don't know if I necessarily believe that they need to be necessarily accountable to us. I think first and foremost, we need to understand the mission of Howard University Alumni Association, which again is to promote the institution to promote Howard University as an institution of excellence and to provide volunteer support as well as fundraise for the university. That's first and foremost our mission. But in that, I think that we, as other many stakeholders, right? I think the university is accountable to multiple stakeholders, not just the alums. But for me, students are the most important stakeholder that Howard University has. We don't have students, we don't have Howard University. So I think most importantly, we need to think about how do we help alums better serve current students, as well as ourselves as we are representatives of the university. I think when we're talking about the administration, if we were to be transparent, there was a fracture, right? There was a us against them. And I think for me coming in, it was important that one, we start to build relationships. You can't work with people if you don't work with them. And I think that's the standpoint that you have to have when you come in. You have to see what the standpoint is, understand the inner workings of the university, understand why some decisions are made, understand that we may not always agree with some of the decisions that Howard University makes, but there's a way for us to engage the administration in a civil way so that we can get what we want. I always believe you can get more bees with honey. And so I think we have to make sure that when we're in the presence of administrators, faculty, students, that we, interact with them in a way so that we can get in there. So I think you have to really, when you're talking about being a change agent, you have to understand all capacities, all stakeholders of the university. It's not just about us. It's about multiple individuals. What's going on with the staff at the university? Again, coming in, I thought it was important that I understood the staff experience, understand the faculty experience, understand the student experience. Obviously I'm alum, understand that there are different types of alums and how they think and understand where they're coming from. But I think the most important thing is that we make sure that we do have an amicable relationship and make sure that they do understand. And then lastly, quickly, we did meet with the board. At homecoming, we had the first alumni board that we've had in almost 4 years, where we did actually meet, and we are now we're working with HUAA leaders to present some of our concerns as they relate to roadblocks for us, as well as some of the concerns that we understand are there for students, alums, and parents of students. So we are getting there. But like I said, Rome was not built in a day.
Thank you. Pulling another from one of the questions that were submitted, and this is again part of engaging alumni. And it's sort of it's a two-part question. Actually it's two questions, but it sort of talks about the same thing. So we're gonna, if we can get your thoughts on each of these, and it's about engaging alumni, but about engaging the alumni from our professional schools, right? That's one, and then our younger alumni. So let's be clear on what we're talking about, younger alumni, because I'm clearly a younger alumni, but let's talk about that younger alumni that's in the 10, the 0 year to 15 year mark, right? Would sort of be a younger alumni considering the generations, but the professional schools and then some of those younger alumni. So I will again start with you, Theo, then we'll go to Candace.
I think in regards to the young alumni, I go back to the clubs. I think that because you're a young alumni, you're just starting your career. I think the first place that you should be looking when you when you go back home or go to wherever you plan to live is the alumni club. Like the alumni club should be the place where if you're an alumni, you should be able to get some mentorship. You should be able to get some resources in regards to trying to find a job or get a house or, whatever it is. The alumni club has to be that place. And I think when you strengthen the alumni clubs with those sort of resources, I think it won't be a situation where you have to go try to find young alumni. They will find you. And I think that's where we need to be. I think we need to be at a place where we are, as soon as you graduate from Howard, we should be telling you, hey, look, you're moving to Chicago, you're moving to Atlanta, find the alumni club. And we have to go to those alumni clubs and say, hey, look, we are funneling young people to you. We are funneling our young alumni to you. Listen to them. Find out what it is that keeps them engaged and roll it up to us so that we know how to try to roll this out other places. But, and I think in terms of the club, it starts before you become an alumnus by graduating. I think it has to start while students are on campus. So one of the things that the Philly Club did is we try to engage students that were students at Howard before they even graduated, because we wanted to have that pipeline for them to come back and be engaged with the alumni club once they graduated. So that's to me, that's the number one way. And you got to give them something to do. I mean, look, young people aren't going to sit around at a meeting and stare at you for an hour once a month. We have to figure out what it is that those young alumni want to do, and we need to do some of it. Can't say we're going to do all of it, but we need to figure out what those things are, and we need to do them, because those young alumni will be middle-aged alumni before you know it, and they'll be older alumni. And one thing is clear, there'll always be alums, so we need to engage them early and often, and we need to make the clubs a place where they'll seek us out versus us trying to seek them out.
Candace?
Well, first I'll address your question about the professional clubs.
Sure.
Actually, under Nadia's administration, we did extend what we're calling now Region 7, which actually serves that particular group of professional organizations as well as affinity groups. So the Campus Pals are in that area, the School of Social Work, the School of Communications, as well as trying to think who else is in there, engineering and architecture. So we really have, and fine arts. So we really started expanding that area. We also have the Rainbow Club, which serves our LGBT plus Q plus community as well. So we have worked on that. And then we have a region chair who's engaged in those particular alumni in that area. So we really are trying to build that out. We've had some conversations with trying to make sure we're still working with the medical school as well as graduate students. And so this year, or under my administration, we made sure we brought back the graduate student representative to sit on the council. So we also had an understanding of what's going on with our graduate students who are then also working within the field. As it relates to young alumni, actually this March, under my administration, we instituted our first national young alumni committee, which is run by two 2012 graduates, Atulia and Marcus. We just have started filling out, having alums submit their interest in being in this committee. So we're going to start working with them. We understand that there is a gap, again, with working with admissions. We understand that there is a gap between when students graduate, which is about 10 years, typically just to get into their careers, and then they come back when they think they got a little bit of money, and they're ready to serve. So we've been trying to really make sure we meet them where they are, and where we had that conversation with those two individuals, we were inside of a happy hour. And so we know that there are different ways that we serve in young alum, and that they have a different interest. And so we have to understand it. And I think part of it is getting out the way. And so that's why we created the National Young Alumni Committee at the Howard University Alumni Association level. And so look forward to that happening. We'll be meeting with them, and they'll be coming to give us some information. Also, we already have a pre-alumni society on campus. We are trying to, again, engage those particular alums. I've been working directly with Dr. Cynthia Evers, who's the VP of Student Affairs, as well as Dr. Kaliche Fluid, who works in the Office of Student Services. So we've been trying to do some things. That Bison Amplify series is coming out. So again, we're trying to make sure we're bringing alum back to the university to interact with students right away, so they can make a connection to service as it relates as being volunteers for the Alumni Association, but also making that connection as it relates to mentorship. So that's what I've been doing so far as it relates to engaging young alums. And Chris, those are individuals under the age of 40 that is considered young. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Oh, well, that means I'm like close to there. Nadia?
Okay, we have a question coming from the audience. What are some campaigns you would implement as Howard University nears its 100th homecoming, specific to engagement, fundraising, and the other pillars of the Alumni Association? And we can start with you, Candace.
Say that again, what engagement?
What are some alumni campaigns that you will initiate as Howard University nears its 100th homecoming? So specifically related to homecoming, as it pertains to fundraising and engagement of alumni.
Well, I think the biggest thing is making sure we're partnering with the university. At some capacity, while HUAA has always been involved, I think over the years we had kind of got a little bit out of the conversation around homecoming. And I think in the last 2 years, we've really worked hard to make sure that we are working with Mr. Rivers on campus, the HUSA students, as well as UGSA, also making sure we're working with DAR. So this year, under working with my VP of engagement, shout out to Kristen Clark, we put together for the last 2 years, we put together not only virtual, but in-person events where we could engage alums and give them an opportunity to be better, engaged. Obviously, we come to homecoming to party, but we want to make sure that we party with a purpose. And so we were making sure, again, under engagement, Bison Engaged theme is that we were starting to engage alumni so they really understood what was going on, giving them more volunteer opportunities on campus so they could go over to different colleges and visit what was going on campus. We put together, HUA partnered with the local club, the Greater Washington, D.C. Club, and the Region 2 chair to ensure that there was an event on that Wednesday night, actually, for those who were there as well. But mainly just making sure we created QR codes, and all of our leaders had lanyards that we would put on our QR codes. Put QR codes, and we could share that with alums while we were on campus. And then we also made sure it was important to me that we started really engaging better with party promoters. People come to Washington, D.C., they throw parties, they make their money, and they roll out. And so what we saw as an opportunity was to make sure that we started engaging those promoters as well, so that we could, make some money off of them as well, and make sure that we could share information, but also get those involved in terms of making sure they were putting in their information, so they were getting information from the university, but also having opportunities to give back. As well as when working with HUAA, we've been able to work directly with the fundraiser officers with DAR, Department of Alumni Relations. So we've built new partnerships with the different DAR representatives. So we've talked to the two DAR officers in athletics. We work with the DAR officer in business, communication arts. Just making sure we know who all the people, architecture, her name is Toy. We make sure we, know what they're doing in terms of their fundraising goals. So again, we built partnership with the Department of Alumni Relations so we can understand where all the giving officers were, so that we can make sure we could get out their campaigns to alums. But particularly as it relates to homecoming, we know people want to party. And so we have to find a way to get information into those parties so we can give them an opportunity to provide and give our alumni giving. And I think we've done a good job in increasing alumni giving around the actual period of homecoming. And I think we'll stay in that spirit going into the 100th year. And of course, the Alumni Lounge. If I am reelected, I would love to turn that up a bit on the campus. So hopefully we can look forward to that.
Theo?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, there are probably more ways to give to the university than there have ever been before. If you look through the alumni portal, you'll see that there are a number of different opportunities to give. So I'm not sure. I can't think of anything off the top of my head specifically I would do around homecoming, other than providing people the opportunity to engage with the Alumni Association and give. I mean, you just have to have a good ask, and I think people will answer. But I think beyond homecoming, we have to really think about what these giving campaigns look like. I went to a predominantly white institution, Tulane, and their alumni giving campaigns look so much different than ours looks. They have figured out, like, almost anything that you can think of that goes on in New Orleans around Tulane, they have a campaign that rolls out almost immediately. I'll give you an example. We had our basketball team made it to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row. I looked and looked and looked and waited and waited and waited for an alumni giving campaign to come out, because that's just kind of how universities work now. And I don't recall anything coming into my inbox. Now, I could be wrong, but I was looking for it. And every time Howard is mentioned in the news positively, I'm looking for something. And sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. So I think as the Alumni Association, as president, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is put my ear to the ground and really, really listening to the clubs to find out what are those things that, hey, when this happens, this seems to get a buzz with the alums. What is that thing? Because we want to start to build campaigns around it. But in terms of, the Alumni Association and giving and that sort of thing, look, there are so many ways to give to the university now. I'm really looking more towards those niches where we've got something that we can latch onto and say, hey, look, send an email out immediately because this happened, and we know people like to give when they see this.
Thanks. And I'll give you a couple of more seconds to just expound on that, because we've gotten a couple of questions regarding philanthropy and how how we can encourage our alumni to give more and to be more financially involved with their university. But I do want to just make sure that we understand that in terms of the overall alumni giving rate, I just want to make Howard is actually above
Yeah.
a lot of the PWIs that are out there. And I don't want us to I don't want us to have the perception that the Howard alumni are not giving. We are giving. Our numbers are not at the 40% clip as some of the HBCUs that are out there, but do understand that even at the numbers that we're giving, right? Our hard dollar is more than some of those schools that have a larger alumni percentage rate. So I just want to make sure it's clear. It's not that the PWIs are giving back, their alumni are giving back at a bigger rate. We're actually all in the same junction, except if a Howard alum gives 5, somebody at like Harvard is giving 500. So that's where the real difference is. So I just want to take a second to just for you, Theo, and then Candace, to expound on the philanthropy and some ideas that you will try to implement moving forward.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I wasn't saying that Tulane gives back more. I was just saying that the way that Tulane, like, they have it's almost like a machine in terms of how many campaigns they spit out. Now, I'd have to go back and take a look at how much money they collect from it. I know it's a hefty sum. And one of the things that I would like to do is, again, because I've worked in software engineering and user experience and all those sorts of things, like, I'm really, really interested in how we can micro-target campaigns to groups, and how we can sort of test the giving rates of different groups. And there's a lot of tools out there that help you do that. I'm not sure whether Howard uses them or not. I don't know. But like, there are platforms that allow you to do just that. All sorts of micro-targeting, but you have to build on a digital platform where you are tracking certain things so that you know this. But I mean, if it were me, it's not probably something that I would be able to do in a year or 2 years. But what I would like to engage the university in is really digitally, what platform are we on? How are we leveraging that platform to understand the trends that are going on and how to engage with our alums? Because like I said, the data is out there, and we really just have to be on a platform where we are collecting that data, and we're understanding the insights that we can gain from that data and the analytics behind that data. And that's where you need to go.
Dr. Candace.
Are you speaking specifically for young students or just in general, the philosophy around it? Or I'm just trying to.
The philanthropy, I'm talking about for alumni. How we can further encourage alumni to give.
Okay. I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Again, understanding the psychology. People go to church every Sunday and give every Sunday without nobody knocking on their door asking them to do what they tithe, right? Because they believe and they have faith and they have an affinity to whatever, Lord they serve, right? I think first and foremost, HUAA, sometimes I think we have to understand our role. There are officers, there's employees at the university, that's what they do. And I think we have to work with them to understand what they're doing, what the data set is, and how we can best assist them in terms of the fundraising campaigns and goals that they have. It's not to say that it's not, there's always room for our opportunity for improvement. We always can talk about process optimization and what that looks like, particularly in the area of fundraising. But I think we have to first understand what our role is in HUAA. And typically it is not to tell development officers how to fundraise. We just need to work with them and see what we can do to help do that. And in that is understanding why alum give. A lot of times, again, past traumas, hurts, standing in that long line in the sun, those kind of things impact what we see in terms of communication. We've been working with the communications department at Howard to talk about how we can get information out. When people see students protesting, when people see students upset or posting on social media and they're trying to understand what's going on, we have to make sure we get that information. So a lot of it is about serving alums in a way that they feel confident that when they give, that their money, because we hear that a lot as officers, where's my money going? And so we have to make sure that we're showing them how dollars work. How is that impacting students? This whole week, or actually the last month, we've been working with students to give them emergency scholarship funds so that they can walk across the line. That interaction with that student makes that student a given alum, because they're going to remember when they were in need that the Howard University Alumni Association helped them out. And cleared their balance. And so we want to make sure that we are doing, it's really about experiences. And it's and that's what we're seeing, in terms of that. And then making sure people, are getting the information that they need so they can best serve it. Over the last couple of years, I've been working with different alums to help them start their own scholarships on campus. So it's just helping people learn how to give, corporate giving, all those different entities. We just need to understand how development works and make sure that we get that information to alums so they can give. And like I said, I know that we've seen the difference as it relates to the alumni giving rate, and it has gone, and the amount of dollars that alumni are giving. And that's with working with the development office and getting that information. We know that that number is going up.
Thank you. To round out this financial piece, because we had quite a few questions come in around fundraising, if you could be very brief, do you have a number in mind as a candidate or serving as president that you would like to see come in from alumni through the association's efforts supporting DAR as in your 2-year term? Or what does that fundraising goal look like for you? Candace first, and then Thea.
I think I'd like to get to, first and foremost, we do know alums are giving. We do get information. There are millions of dollars coming in from alums, particularly as it relates to HUAA. I would like to hit the $1 million mark in concert with alumni as well as with our clubs. We do know, I do know, just based on some of the information that's been given to me, we have raised about $500,000 over the last year or so. So we know we can do it. If we were to combine a little bit of Charlie's administration and my administration, we have been able to bring in about $1.5 million. So we know that, but I would like to just do with the right proper information, proper technology, opportunities to give. And I know that the university is actually rolling something out that's going to make it a little bit easier for us to give, because some of the infrastructure at Howard University does make it a little bit harder to give than maybe some of our other institutions. But I do know that they're about to roll something out that would allow us, if you all have been paying attention to what just came out for the graduating students, the Stars Bison Strong to Finish. They've been able to use a different platform that allows us to give, that allows us to create videos, that allows us to send it out, text it out. So Howard is moving in a way that will allow us to better fundraise for students, and as well as our actual organization. But the first thing and foremost for scholarships, I would like to hit the $1 million mark specifically under HUAA. But I think we can start with making sure that we're giving out that money as well. And then I would like for us to focus a little bit on raising funds in terms of an operational budget. I know that's a little bit on the side, but I would like for us to also use some funds so that we can do more engagement opportunities for our alums.
Theo?
No, I don't necessarily have a specific number in mind. I think that I would be looking more at the number of alums that are engaging and that are donating to the university versus the amount of money that they're given. Because I think if you can get 10% more alumni to give, even if we give a smaller number than we did the year before, eventually people will start to give more and give more and give more. So I think I would probably be more focused on getting more people to get into a donation relationship with the university. I think the rest, in terms of the money, I think that all sorts of that always will just kind of sort its way out. If you're engaging more alumni and they're starting to foster a relationship to give, you'd be surprised how much money that you'll be able to raise. And as those numbers start to come out, I think that will get more people to give more money. So that's just kind of the way that I look at it. I think you have to measure it in the number of our alumni that are giving money, and not necessarily just the hard number of how much money was raised year over year.
Okay, so we've got a couple more questions, and then we'll close things up. And this is going to go back to some of the direct management of the constituent units, and getting them, I guess it's sort of to getting them the tools that they need, which might also include access to whatever accounts on campus, and how we work with what are your ideas and thoughts on working with administration to get the constituent units the tools and access they need to help them thrive. And we'll start with you, Theo, and then Candace.
Well, one of the tools that I was outside of just getting access to the accounts, one of the things that I particularly struggled with when I was running the club was access to Zoom. Like, just having a virtual meeting was something that I kind of had to do out of my pocket. There's a ton of resources out there that that clubs could have access to, and in terms of engaging and having meetings and that sort of thing. So that's one resource that I would try to figure out a way to, give Zoom and some other collaborative tools to clubs. Because I am a systems guy, I'd have to really kind of understand what the university wants to expose to clubs and how we can do it. I'm willing to bet most of the systems that the university has in place are set up in a way where you're assigned a role and you can log in and you can look, and you may not have necessarily access to edit anything, but you have a read-only access to some of this content. So I think, one of the things that I would look to do is just try to understand what parameters around giving clubs access to some of this information, because most systems now are designed so that people can have access to them, even though, and that access is limited in a way where, well, if I'm the Delaware club, I can only see the finances of the Delaware club. I can't go look at other clubs and that sort of thing. And, the regional chairs have a different level of access where they can do that. I mean, but that's one of the things that, you have to engage with the university, kind of understanding where they are, because again, I can't dictate anything to them, but I do know from just over 25 years experience in systems that these things are possible. And so just having an idea of how these things are possible, you have an opportunity to have that discussion with the university and say, hey, like, how can we facilitate this? What can we do to give folks access to this information? Because going back and constantly calling and emailing the university it's not the way that we want to engage alums.
Thank you, Candace.
Can you repeat the question, please, Chris?
Yeah, it was how are some of your ideas to work better with the administration to get the constituent units the tools and access they need to help them run more efficiently?
Well, I think, some things, again, unfortunately, don't work for Howard. Actually, I do work for Howard, but not in that capacity. There are some process optimization, infrastructural things that the university are working on, and they may not always move in the timing and in the speed that we want them to do that. But one of the things I was trying to work on, at least at bare minimum, is figuring out, we started trying to work with admissions to figure out what access we could have to some of the technology tools that they're using. One of those things, and it sounds very simple, it sounds small, but one of the things I've been working on is just getting HUAA into the actual mainframe of Howard University. So for example, we do not have a Howard Alumni Association email, which would allow us to work specifically within the system. So part of the backlog or some of the issues that Theo is raising is because we're not actually in the systems, which means we have to depend on Howard University employees to do some of that legwork for us. But then that also means we're in their actual system and how they're moving. And so sometimes that is a particular issue. But in that, we have been having conversations. As I mentioned, HUAA has compiled a list of concerns that we have as it relates to our ability to best serve the university, to present to the Board of Trustees so that they know, because they also are the ones who set policy and can make some of those decisions that keep us potentially from not being able to have better access to dashboards, budgets, so on and so forth. Also, again, I don't want to ever suggest that these efforts have not been made. They were made under Nadia's administration. Actually, I think they were made under your administration as well, Chris. We've tried to do that under Chris's administration. We tried to do that under Nadia's administration. We presented another technology opportunity to the administration under Charlie. So this is not something that is done lightly, that hasn't been done before. We will continue to try to help or try to assist as it relates to making sure clubs get information. But again, we do have a system where clubs are able to get information. We are trying to work with the different administrators in various offices across campus to build that relationship, to build that trust, so that we can to better serve our clubs and make sure that they get the information that they need. This is a fight, and if I could be transparent, this is something that we work on consistently to ensure that we can best serve. And it has been said directly to the board chair that we need assistance so that we can be better servants to our constituent units as well as the various stakeholders to the university. So this is something we will continue to work on. But like I said, every organization has their systems, and although we may not always agree or think they can do it better, we have to still, to some extent, work within their system.
Thank you, Nadia.
So we are nearing the end. So I just want to kind of open this question as a broad question for you, but why do you think that you are best suited to serve the next 2 years as HUAA president? Candace?
Why am I best to serve for the next 2 years? I think the biggest part of it is I've been serving. I think that I have demonstrated a commitment to Howard University prior to even joining at the national level, but specifically for the national level, I've been doing this now for a decade. And it does take time. I've served at I've interacted with different constituent units, faculty, students, staff. Our focus for the last 2 years, Bison Engage. I believe we've been able to do that. We have engaged multi-generational alums. We have started to bring in what we're calling our young alums. We're engaging them in a different level. We've been put partnerships with the actual students on campus. So I've had a good relationship with Jordan Allen, who was the I want to say 62nd Houston president, as well as with Nia Naylor, who we've been working with for this year. We've started to, again, engage with graduate students as well. In that particular capacity, we've introduced some inaugural programs that we think have better been able to be able to engage alums as well as parents, as well as building that bridge again with the employees of the university. I think we've had a great relationship with the department, the development office, as well as the Department of Alumni Relations, building visibility. I think that it's been hard, but I'm trying to make this thing look sexy. And I think that we've been, doing that good job to get alums to really want to give back, to want to serve in their particular communities, meeting people where they are. They don't have to start a club, but you can't have an event in Fayetteville, North Carolina, if that's what you want to do, or in Arkansas, if that's what you want to do. So we've been focused on really trying to engage alums at a high level, but making sure that our officers understand policies, procedures, how Howard works, how they can best serve them. Also, we've been trying to work on how we can better serve alums with the business directory, making sure that we're having opportunities for mid-level career alums to do that. So I want to finish this thing out. Like I said, I think that we started well. I think that we those who have been watching HUAA over the last year and a half plus, I think they've seen the changes and the things that we're doing. We've built on some of the programs that my predecessors have implemented. So I think for me is that, in terms of doing this job, I'm doing it. And that I think it's also important to understand when you are a leader of a university, people, they need to see you. They need to see what you're doing. And I think they've seen what the leaders are doing for HUAA. I think they've been able to be more engaged in various capacities, whether that is, student recruitment, whether that's scholarships, whether that is, athletic events. We've been able to really do it. And so I think that I'd like to continue, and that definitely would be my legacy. But most importantly, we've been focusing on the students and helping them finish and graduate. And I think, if anything, that's been my biggest goal and something I've been able to succeed in doing. And that's getting students finished so they can go on and live productive lives and be the leaders that we know Howard University students are.
Thank you. Theo?
I think mostly because I just served recently as a club president. I think clubs are the core of the Alumni Association. They are the closest to alums. I think when we empower the clubs do a lot of the things that we want them to do for the individual students. There's never been a time when I was not able to go to my club in Philadelphia and say, hey, students are coming, or students need X, or student needs Y. And the alums didn't respond. We got overwhelming response. I think sometimes the gap was things like, well, if students are coming for alternative spring break, how do alums give so that their money goes directly to the Philadelphia club, which is supporting, the student spring break, the alternative spring break. I think those are some of the challenges that I had as a club president. And so serving as a president of HUAA, I really want to serve to empower the clubs, because I think a lot of what we expect our alum to do, and a lot of things that we want alum to do, our clubs are poised to do. They're ready to do it. They're going to do it without anybody asking them. They're going to do beyond what we think that they'll do. We have to provide them with the resources and the boundaries of how to do it, and it'll get done. I've watched it over and over again in the Philadelphia club, but not just Philadelphia, Baltimore, Atlanta, Las Vegas. Some of these clubs, I'm constantly amazed by what they do. So I think as president, why I'll be successful over the next 2 years is because I'm looking to go to those clubs and say, here, these are the resources that you need. This is what you've all been waiting for. Now let's go see what you can do.
Thank you. And as we close out, again, want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on the Howard University Alumni Insights call with our 2 candidates for president of the Howard University Alumni Association, Theo Spencer and Dr. Candace Harris. Thank you to the team from the Department of Alumni Relations, behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, for making this happen. My fellow former president, Nadia Bayless, our co-moderator, thank you so much. And as we close out, we're gonna just remind everybody again, elections are coming up, and you should be receiving an email or to your emails on. Here we go. Well, nope, that's the wrong screen. Wait, can we go to the screen for, there we go. Thank you. Those are the important dates. So April 25th, the candidate platforms will be sent via email. And then on April 30th, the elections will open at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And then voting closes on May 21st at 11:59 Eastern time. Okay, so if you're unsure, if Howard University of Department of Alumni Relations has your right email, by all means, please reach out to them, update your information, and that way you make sure you have all the right information. Make sure you also check your spam folders. But you know, stay connected with us. Stay connected with us.
Chris, you know, another way you can check your information, if you log online to Give, and when you go to the giving platform, you put your information in, whatever populates is the information that's used. So, hey, just another plug to Give always.
Listen, that's a great idea. You know, if everybody decided to give 1867 just from joining this call right now, yeah, look, I mean, behest me to encourage giving, but that's a great way to also make sure that your information is updated, especially with those emails. Sometimes you don't put you miss off one character, so you know, please go on and email. But that's a great point, Nadia. Thank you very much. So as we close out, and we'll start with you, Theo, and then we'll give the last word to our current president, to just simply in like under a minute, final thoughts, and then quickly just describe, because a lot of this is what we're doing, and it's passionate, and we're here, and there's not going to be a question about we love the university, because we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love the university, right? For everybody that serves and continue to serve. But as you close out with your final thoughts, I would also ask you to explain what truth and service means to you. And we will close out. And you people, most of y'all know me, I will refrain from us singing the alma mater on this particular call. But we'll do that later on the yard. You know, that's my thing. But but as we close out, you know, just explain final thoughts, and then what truth and service means to you. Theo.
Yeah, I want to thank HUAA for putting this platform together. I love the university. I've always loved the university. I hope that the alums will see fit that I'm a steward of the university again, of this alumni association. Truth and service to me really means, hey, we have to be honest with the alums, but we also have to be ready to serve. And I've been, I think those are two things or two areas that I think have always been in my makeup. I'm always somebody that will tell you the truth, and I've always been somebody that's, you know, come prepared to serve. So with that, like I said, I'm thankful for this opportunity. I'm really happy that I'm even being considered as a candidate, and I want to thank everybody that joined on this call. And hopefully, I'll be serving you soon as the president of our illustrious Alumni Association. So thank you.
Dr. Candace.
Thank you. Again, thank you to my fellow candidate, Theo Spencer, as well as our moderators, former President Nadia Pinto, and former President and Alumni Trustee, legendary Chris Washington, as well as our DAR representatives who have been facilitating this this event tonight. If you cut me right now, what color do you think my blood is going to be? It's going to be blue. I am through and through a Bison. Not only do I think that I invoke the spirit of our alma mater and our motto, truth and service, but it's something that I live every day. in terms of what I do as a profession, interacting, serving individuals, serving various stakeholders, serving students, faculty. This is something that I do. It's something I go to sleep, I wake up, I do it. I think I've been able to translate that into my particular role as president of the Howard University Alumni Association. I believe in being a conduit. I believe in being a peacemaker. I believe in showing grace and giving everyone an opportunity to serve our illustrious university. But more importantly, I do believe in us being honest and being transparent about what we see, but also realizing and knowing our place and knowing our role. And how we can best serve this particular institution. The platform that I ran on last time and the one I'm going to currently run on in terms of Bison Engage, it means something to me. I want to make sure we're engaged. I want to make sure that we're networking with each other. I want to make sure that we have access to information. I want to make sure that we're galvanizing all the 80 plus, 90 plus living alumni that we have. I want to make sure that we're meeting them where they are in a particular role. And I want to make sure that we're promoting the institution as a institution of excellence. It's something that I saw when I was a student there in terms of being a leadership servant. It's something that I chose to do professionally, and it's something that I do every day as a human being, on this earth. And so I think that is, if anyone meets me and interacts with me, that's what you get. I am authentically myself, and you will always, get that. And so with that, it would be my pleasure to serve again as the Howard University Alumni Association president.
Thank you. Thank you both, Theo, Spencer, Candace Harris, for putting your names in the ballot box, in the hat for this position at this particular time. So we're excited to see what comes from this. Once again, you have the information for all the attendees. Just want to say that both Theo and Candace are going to be available to you all once the information goes out for their platforms. Please, if you did not get your question answered tonight, reach out to them directly and field a response from them. We do not want this to be a one-time conversation, but to keep these doors open and hopefully open throughout whoever is elected next to serve as our president of the HUAA. Thank you all tonight so much. Any closing words from the university? If not, have a wonderful evening, and this should be made available as well for further viewing at a later date as well. So look forward to that. We guys are very excited that you guys joined on tonight. We look forward to seeing this campaign season go off effortlessly.
HU.
You know.
Good night, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.